I'm super excited to be here. Nice to meet you, everybody. I'm Niv. I'm a cloud architect and a DevOps team lead at OpsSplit. OpsSplit is a professional services company. We do DevOps, we do AI, we do data. All the buzzwords, we have it. I'm also an AWS community hero, and I'm leading the AWS Israel user group. And my humor is abysmal. It's awful. But I bet some of you can relate with that. So actually, it's a short talk. So I'll go straight into my point. And my point is that abstractions, maybe they make things easier, but the cost no one talks about is quality. And quality gets hurt. I've been actually doing DevOps for quite some time now. I've seen quite a lot of revolutions in this area. Now come, get around the fire. I want to tell you how we used to manage services and compute before the cloud era. We actually had those thingies called U1 servers, or pizzas. This is how we used to call them. And to purchase those pizzas, we needed to get funding requests approved, we needed to get money, budget, and we needed actually to define how much resources are we going to need to run our service. And if we needed storage, we needed to do the same thing for storage. We needed to order those things, install them physically, and then install the correct software on them. And those were all the resources we had. Once we finished up those resources, we needed to do all this process all over again. It was quite a pain in the ass, but the good thing that came out of it is that we were really mindful about our resources. And we used them to the max. But nowadays, if we run out of storage, we just add more storage. If we run out of memory, we just use a bigger instance. If our database is not working, and by not working, I mean we just don't know how to treat the tables. We just use a bigger, stronger instance, and that's it. And when I say go to the console and do it, I don't mean that we actually go to the console and add resources manually. How dare you? ClickOps? No way. We have auto-scaling groups that do it automatically. We're actually being praised for making our system auto-scale straight into inefficiency. And scaling up, it's easy. Scaling down, many servers require downtime in order to be scaled down. We don't like downtime, so we just leave it as it is. We don't do right sizing. So what? So we have a few too big EBSs, a few instances that are not fully used. It's worth it, isn't it? But you know what? We live on Earth, and on Earth, the laws of physics apply. And when there's a vacuum, it gets filled up. And so all the resources we added and we don't want to scale down our systems are being bloated into them to fit all the space that was created. And they get less, and the quality gets hurt. And when I say today, the clicker doesn't work. One moment. Okay. And when I say today, I'm not speaking about the present. I'm talking about the past. It was actually yesterday, because today we have this cool thing called vibe coding. I'm sure you've heard about vibe coding. But what vibe coding says is that you don't need to bother to figure out the how. You just need to know what you want to achieve, and then let AI do it for you. And what we have is many apps that are created by people that never done software engineering. They're not aware of the policies and the how-tos. And then funny things happen. People get hacked, databases get dropped, etc. Now you might say, Niv, you're gone too far. This is not what we have in our offices. In order to work where I work, you need to do a job interview, you need to to be capable to do stuff. You cannot just be some noob vibe coder. Okay, I get it. So let's take it closer and take an example from our actual day-to-day job. I went to a lecture with a friend of mine who's a front-end developer, and it was a meetup about front-end. And the speaker used Cursor. He demonstrated how we can build apps using Cursor. And in his lecture, in his talk, he built a Next.js app using only prompts. He encountered an error in his code and used Cursor to resolve the issue. The error was about the state, using a state inside server component. So he pasted it to Cursor, and Cursor gave him a solution on how to fix it. And the Cursor solved it by turning it into a client component, from server component to a client component. And the issue solved. The app is running, everything's good, everything's perfect, but an experienced developer would refactor to keep the server and client responsibilities separate and to minimize the client-side footprint. Some of us know that, some of us know. But we can use Cursor in order to do something that we're not very good at, but we need to be aware that sometimes we're going to have blind spots and we're going to make our app less efficient. I'm not saying don't use AI. I'm not saying don't use cloud or third-party tools. God forbid, no. I love using those. What I wish for us, what I want us to achieve, is to actually bring craftsmanship back in this era of abstractions. Because I feel like we kind of forgot it. We left it somewhere with all the other responsibilities we dropped to the cloud provider. And I want us to get it back. Also, did you notice that with this change, there are a few functions that went missing? Remember when we used to have QA engineers, like actual teams of actual people that did QA? This was their profession. I have a friend who used to do QA. He's doing sound healing now. He did it by choice. He really liked it for a fact, but I think it's a funny anecdote. And besides QA, there's one more function that has gone missing, and it's DBA, database administrators. And me, and I'm sure some of you as well, would love to have some DBA to go over the DBs, because they do know what they're doing, and still, it went missing. And why? Because in this era of abstractions, when we have so many layers that separate us from the actual infrastructure, from the actual resources, it is much easier to add more patches, to add more infra, to pay hourly for a bigger instance, than to go back and review what we did and improve the quality. We're just choosing the faster way, but the speed hurts our velocity over time. And it really bugged me. So I wondered, who approved this? Who would let it happen? Like, we're DevOps, we're not the only function in the organization. There must be somebody who wants to put an end to it. Well, let's see. We have the team leader and the VP R&D. Why would they approve it? Because they're satisfied. They didn't overpromise. The goal was met in the time frame they committed on. So yes, they approved. Then we have the product manager. The product manager, the production is functioning as promised to the customer, and developers can continue working on product feature. Sounds good, no? The product manager approves. How about the founders? What about them? Like, it's their organization. It should be in their interest to keep the software in high quality, no? The product meets the customer and stakeholders' expectations. And if not, we'll just add AI to the title, and everybody's going to be happy, right? So the founders, they approve as well. And we're left with code quality, velocity, security, and infra cost that are being hurt. And I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, because it's DevOps days. And code quality, and velocity, and security, and infra cost usually falls under our umbrella. This is our responsibility to take care of those things that actually get hurt by the degradation of quality. So what can we do? We can do QA and observability even when we don't have those functions in the organization. For QA, we must do error handling and tests. And for observability, we need to configure our observability to reveal causality. And why is that important? Because when we used to manage the infra, we could actually monitor the infrastructure. Now, even when we monitor the CPU and the memory, we're only monitoring the abstractions of it. So when we configure our observability to reveal causality, we can teach our observability what good systems looks like, and actually observe that. Another thing is processes. We are all aware of GitOps, code reviews, and guardrails for AI. This is hard, because we don't know what we don't know. But still, don't give up on those. Another thing, and I beg you, please treat the root cause. Don't just do patches over patches over patches. It will hurt your product and your system over time. And yes, it's really hard to convince the managers to actually treat the root cause, to actually take care of tech debt. But when we focus on cost and security, we can actually speak in the same language with our product managers and our CISOs. And then we can actually convince the higher management to actually do steps, take steps, and prioritize tasks that will help with quality, and use it shamelessly. Another one last thing that we can do is to give up. And I'm not saying it to be a party pooper, and I'm not saying it to bring your motivation down. Quite the opposite. Because sometimes, we as DevOps, we are so passionate about technology and about making things right and in the best way, that we tend to forget that clients and the product are just as important, maybe sometimes even more important, I know it is hard to hear, than DevOps and than infrastructure. But we actually need to have clients, we need to have customers, we need to have ROIs for our production, as good as it is, to mean something. So acceptance actually helps us to enjoy our journey. And if the higher management doesn't care, we shouldn't go take it home. We shouldn't let it bother us this much. We should just enjoy the journey as much as possible. Thank you very much.